A British bride who married on Christmas Day after meeting her date for the first time has lost her job over bondage party pictures. Sarah Edwards admitted she has a very high sex drive and enjoys attending fetish parties. The 34-year-old also said she enjoyed the fetish and BDSM scene, having been taken to a party in Brighton a month ago, where she was pictured wearing the same blue light-up trainers as at her Las Vegas wedding. But it now transpires Mrs. Edwards, who married husband Paul, 36, days after they met on dating app Bumble in Vegas, has lost her job as a nanny after the photos of her in a topless corset emerged, a source told The Sun. Her boss didn't like the kind of attention she was getting and has decided it best she work elsewhere. She was looking for love, and was very lucky to find it, but now she'll be getting back online for a new job. Sarah Edwards previously told Mail Online she has found it difficult to find a man who could match her sex drive, until she met and married her husband in a whirlwind romance. Edwards made the confession after Mail Online obtained photos of her topless at a fetish night organized by the Torture Garden Club. She said, "It's true. I am interested in fetish and the BDSM community. I went to a fetish party in Brighton a month ago for the first time and had never been to anything like that before. There were dungeon rooms, you can be spanked and all sorts of things like that. There is a couple's room, but we didn't go in there. We didn't participate. Jadali went to the party on my third or fourth date with a guy. He made his outfit. He got his mum to make his outfit. He wore a white corset with sparkles and a small skirt with stockings." So one of the photos is featured on the Facebook page of Torture Garden, a fetish club that arranges events around the UK. Edwards, née Elliott, admitted she enjoys sex and has found it difficult to find a man to keep up with. Harry have a high sex drive. It's quite difficult to find someone with the same level as me, she said. I have never found a guy who can match my appetite until now. When I met my husband, Edwards and her husband Paul, 36, arrived back in Britain on Sunday after their Las Vegas wedding. Edwards, who is originally from New Zealand but now lives in Tunbridge Wells, Kent, was matched with father of two Paul on the dating app Bumble on December 15. The pair spoke for the first time on December 22 and a day later had already decided to marry, despite never meeting face-to-face. Meeting for the first time at Gatwick Airport on Christmas Eve. The duo boarded a plane in full wedding gear and jetted off to Las Vegas to get married later that day in front of the Bellagio Hotel. A month before the shock nuptials, Edwards had met another man on a date arranged through the app Bumble. During the meeting with a 38-year-old marketing executive, she was forthright about her sexual needs. She also sent him photos from the fetish event. The man, who asked not to be named, said, "From the start of her meetings she made it very clear that she had a very high sex drive and enjoyed sex. To be honest, I was a bit taken back with how direct she was, but she told me she wanted to make sure we were compatible before the date went any further. She made it very clear that she likes sex, and lots of it. She was very direct and told me she liked to attend fetish parties. I told her I had a high sex drive and she was happy to continue, but to be honest it was all a bit strange. She was intimate." Edwards sent her would-be suitor two photographs taken at a fetish event. "I was surprised to get them, but then she had talked about the fetish event from the outset. She made it very clear that she was into sex in a big way. She just brought up the subject right at the start of our conversation. I'm pretty open-minded, but she was so direct and made it clear what she liked and that was sex." Was a very confident person, but it was still a bit of shock to hear her talking like that when we had only just met. "I've been on a few dates from Bumble but never met someone who was so open." As if hearing that she liked fetish parties wasn't quite a shock, she also told me that she liked to dress up much younger than her age. I wasn't too sure how young she meant, but she said she had friends who liked to pretend to be babies. She also talked about finding a daddy. I'm not too sure what she meant, but didn't really want to ask. Harry was a bit put off by this point as I wasn't too sure how young she liked to dress up, but she said she would sometimes talk in a young girl's voice. Edwards told her date she was still living with an ex-boyfriend but they did not have sex as he was asexual. She said his name was Paul and there was also another man called Paul who rented a room in their house. She said they no longer had sex after spending just over 3 hours together. Edwards and her date went their separate ways, but continued to send each other emails. He never saw her again, but as soon as I heard about a woman who married after meeting a date on Bumble I knew it would be her. She is a very adventurous person who would do something on the spur of the moment. No, we only had one date, but I think I had a lucky escape. Good luck to the guy who married her. I just hope he can keep up with her. The newlyweds arrived back at Gatwick Airport on Sunday after their brief trip to the US, and are already planning to start a family. Sarah said, "The wedding was so romantic. It was the perfect day. Our wedding kiss was our first, and there aren't many couples who can say that we kissed in front of a Bellagio." The fountains went off and Christmas music was playing in the background with bells ringing. "I even got bells on my wedding day." The minister kept telling us how strong a connection we had and told us to stay cute and to stay adorable. Tourists were cheering, and then we walked around the city in our wedding outfits taking it all in. It was magical. Sarah said, "We share so many of the same values and passions. We are both ambitious and want to support each other to be the best we can be." We both said we want children in the future. It will have to be through IVF. But Paul and I already discussed it before the engagement. I'm also very excited to meet Paul's two daughters. They will be my girls too. Now, as you don't just marry a person, you marry into the family. Paul, who has two daughters, aged 13 and 15, from a previous relationship, is also looking forward to living with Sarah. He said, "Some interesting things I've learned about Sarah in the 6 days we've spent together is that her favorite meal is plain rice and mincemeat. Just that she also loves taking baths, and we are even comfortable using the bathroom at the same time. We can just be ourselves while we are getting to know one another, and it feels like we have known each other for so much longer than just a few weeks." The couple headed to Brighton to meet Sarah's friends and plan to look for rental property near Tunbridge Wells, Kent. Paul, 36, and Sarah Edwards, 34, were seen laughing and smiling as they arrived together at Gatwick Airport yesterday, the same place they met for the first time only days earlier. The couple shared their first night of passion after their whirlwind wedding at the Bellagio Hotel in Las Vegas, where the couple jetted off to get hitched, and the newlyweds said their first night together beneath the sheets certainly lived up to expectations. When asked if they had consummated their marriage, Paul said, "Yes. Yes. Yes," and Sarah said, "Paul and I both have very high sex drives, so it has been hard to find somebody who can keep up with that. We consummated our marriage on our wedding night, and it certainly lived up to expectations." Her added, "It was quite nice because if you have a traditional wedding, the bride and groom can be quite drunk by the time, but we weren't. It was a very special night, and we discovered we are completely compatible in that way too." And the new Mrs. Edwards, who is excited to meet Paul's two teenage daughters, has revealed that they've already discussed starting a family through IVF. Sarah said, "We share so many of the same values and passions. We are both ambitious and want to support each other to be the best we can be." We both said we want children in the future. It will have to be through IVF, but Paul and I already discussed it before the engagement. I'm also very excited to meet Paul's two daughters. They will be my girls too. Now, as you don't just marry a person, you marry into the family. Paul, who has two daughters, aged 13 and 15, is also looking forward to living with Sarah, who he described as a beautiful, wonderful person. The happily wed couple only spoke on the phone for the first time on December 22nd, and the very next day they decided to get married. They met each other at Gatwick Airport on Christmas Eve, wearing their full wedding outfits, and boarded a plane to Las Vegas to get hitched. Paul, 36, even got down on one knee to pop the question at the airport with a £800 vintage diamond cluster ring. The lovebirds flew back into Gatwick on Sunday afternoon following their whirlwind wedding, and described their big day as perfect. Sarah and Paul said they held hands throughout their entire stay in Vegas, where they wed in front of the famous fountains of Bellagio. During their stay, the newlyweds explored Vegas, enjoyed a Cirque du Soleil show, and went dancing in the resort's famous nightclubs. Sarah said, "One thing I learned about Paul during the trip was that he is an amazing dancer because he just doesn't care." We had our first dance at a club in Vegas where we danced together until 3 a.m. We didn't drink that much, but the next day I was feeling hungover and Paul went out to get me some water and a banana. It was a very special night, and we discovered we are completely compatible in that way too. Paul, of Chichester, West Sussex, described the moment he met Sarah for the first time in person at Gatwick Airport on Christmas Eve. He said, "I was panicky before meeting Sarah at the airport, and I had to go to the pub to calm my nerves. Then Sarah said, "I am here," so I went to the check-in. He was looking left and right, and then she poked her head around the pillar with a massive smile, and I thought, that is her. That is Sarah. During their 10-hour flight to Vegas, Sarah and Paul spoke throughout the entire journey. Sarah said, "We both agreed that if either of us were having doubts, we could just make this a fantastic holiday. But we both felt the connection and wanted to commit to one another for life." Now they are looking forward to married life and plan to move in together immediately. They were heading to Brighton, East Sussex, for Paul to meet the first of Sarah's friends, and they will begin searching for rental properties in Tunbridge Wells, Kent, close to where Sarah works as a nanny and just an hour's drive from Paul's new electrician course. Sarah said, "The wedding was so romantic, it was the perfect day. Our wedding kiss was our first, and there aren't many couples who can say that." We kissed in front of a Bellagio. The fountains went off and Christmas music was playing in the background with bells ringing. I even got bells on my wedding day. The minister kept telling us how strong a connection we had and told us to stay cute and to stay adorable. Tourists were cheering, and then we walked around the city in our wedding outfits, taking it all in. It was magical. During their honeymoon, Paul said he's learned many interesting things about his new wife. He said, "Some interesting things I've learned about Sarah in the 6 days we've spent together is that her favorite meal is plain rice and mincemeat. Just fetch. Also loves taking baths, and we are even comfortable using the bathroom at the same time. We can just be ourselves while we are getting to know one another, and it feels like we have known each other for so much longer than just a few weeks." The couple are also making plans to meet their respective in-laws. Sarah said, "My parents and my cousins are all still in New Zealand, on North Island, so of course I'd love for Paul to meet them. But we haven't got that far yet. I'm also looking forward to introducing Paul to my friends, getting back to normality and just enjoying married life with him." When I first told them about Paul and our plans to get married, they were speechless and they asked why the rush. But after they spoke with him on the phone and saw what an amazing person he was, they understood and wished us well for the wedding. I was amazed because they are very traditional, but they were very positive, and that shows what kind of a person Paul is. But Sarah has not spoken with her two best friends since she told them about the wedding, when they said it was a bad idea and that she was making a mistake. Sarah added, "So many people think we did this on a whim, but we discussed it and take this seriously. For us, it is a commitment for life." It was hard to be alone the weekend before my wedding. My friends were not there, but I was so adamant this can work, and I believe in the power of my convictions.